Welcome to Learning English with Captain Binoy Varakil, Assistant Professor, Department of English, St. Joseph's College, Devagiri, Kozhikode, Kerala. Today we discuss one of the important playwrights of world literature, and that playwright is Eugene O'Neill. As we know, Eugene O'Neill is one of the most significant playwrights of American literature as well. So let us look at the life and career of Eugene O'Neill. In the first part of this lecture, we look at the greatness of Eugene O'Neill as a playwright or dramatist. O'Neill is one of the greatest American dramatists. He is a prominent dramatist of modern age. He contributed to the new drama. His is purely an objective kind of drama showing the working of man's mind and conscience. He belongs also to the expressionistic school of drama and is often called the dramatist of protest. He has really protested against the prevailing surface realism or naturalism. His drama is preoccupied with spiritual values, inner conflicts, anguish, failure, and pride. His use of mask, asides, and expressionistic techniques in his plays reveals his profound interest in experiment and innovation. Eugene O'Neill is an outstanding American dramatist who started a revolution in the American theater and put the American drama on a firm footing. He was rewarded for his great service to American drama. He was rewarded with 3 Pulitzer Prizes, and his worth was finally recognized when he was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1936. There is no doubt that O'Neill combined great theatrical talent with enormous knowledge of the human soul. His best work has an intensity of passion and a sense of theater action which his faults of rhetoric and symbolism can withstand. His courage and endless experiment with various methods, naturalistic, realistic, expressionistic, and symbolic, created an American theater out of nothing, a series of plays which represent American culture between the wars and which can be compared only with the finest poetry and novels. He is also the father of the psychology of drama. Let's look at the birth and parentage of Eugene O'Neill. Eugene Gladstone O'Neill, the son of James O'Neill and Ella Quinian, was born on October 16, 1888 in an uptown family hotel near Barrett House on Broadway at 43rd Street, New York. His father was one of the best known of American actors. His parents were ardent Catholics. His mother was exceptionally beautiful. She loved music and practiced a curl handwriting. During his boyhood, Eugene O'Neill suffered from a sense of insecurity. O'Neill accompanied his active father on his long acting tours. This filled him with a sense of instability and insecurity. Bound, the critic remarks, as a boy, O'Neill could touch on politics, on religion, and on a cloudy form of nature mysticism. He developed a kind of fascination for the past. Now let's look at the early education of Eugene O'Neill. Having spent his early educational years in Catholic schools, O'Neill studied for 4 years at Beck's Academy at Stamford from 1896 to 1902. From there, he went to the Princeton. He joined the universities to study law to take his Bachelor of Law, but law did not suit him. He was soon attracted by drama. At Princeton, he indulged in gratifying his senses, drank and broke the glass insulators on the telegraph poles. He decided to leave the college, communicated his firm resolve to Dean Fine, who had interrogated him on his misdeeds. In 1909, he secretly married Kathleen Jenkins of New York, and a son was born in the following year. The marriage was not welcomed by the girl's parents, and a divorce was obtained in 1912. Eugene was sent by his father to Honduras, Central America, as an assistant on gold mining expedition. He returned from there in 1910 without finding any gold. Eugene drank and loved girls. On December 29, 1911, he visited a house at 140 West 45th Street with 3 companions. He was attracted by some girl and was in bed with her. There was an adequate proof of adultery against him. Kathleen's lawyers filed a suit against Eugene O'Neill for absolute divorce on the ground of adultery. The case was not defended, and the suit was granted to Kathleen, and Eugene O'Neill Jr. was to remain under the care and custody of his mother. In 1915, Kathleen married George P. Smith, an accountant in an advertising agency in New York. Now, later, as he grew up, he spent his life as a seaman and suffered from tuberculosis. Let's look at his career as a seaman and the illness he just suffered. Then for some months, he was assistant manager to his father's company during a tour from St. Louis to Boston. There followed a stray 5-day voyage to Buenos Aires. He took up several kinds of employment there and then looked after mules on a cattle steamer that went to Durban and back. After that, a period of destitution at Buenos Aires was ended by his becoming an ordinary seaman on a British ship sailing to New York. Living again at Jimmy the Priest, he picked up occasional jobs and then sailed to Southampton as an able seaman on an American ship. Next, he was acting in his father's company in the far west. The tour over, he lived with his parents at their summer house in New London, Connecticut. There he worked as a reporter, and he began to write plays and poems during this time. In December 1912, tuberculosis was diagnosed, and he stayed as a patient for 5 months at the Gaylord Farm Sanatorium at Wallingford, Connecticut. He was discharged as arrested. He left the sanatorium with the intention of becoming a serious playwright. Now, his career as a playwright. In the autumn of 1914, Eugene O'Neill entered G.P. Baker's Academy at the Harvard to take lessons in playwriting. It was in the academy that he learned a great deal of playwriting. He wrote many plays which have been listed in the chronology at the end of every book on Eugene O'Neill. We will also be looking at the plays of Eugene O'Neill. Now, marriages and the domestic life of Eugene O'Neill. In 1918, he married Agnes Boulton, and they lived for several summers at Peaked Hill, a reconditioned life-saving station near Provincetown. During the rest of the years, they lived in other places. They had 2 children before separating in 1927. His third wife, Carlotta Monterrey, accompanied him on many long journeys to Europe, to Asia, and to the American West. They were to be frequently on the moving during the rest of O'Neill's life, and they were to experience many painful things, including the suicide of Eugene O'Neill Jr., the son of the playwright, by his first wife, Kathleen Jenkins. O'Neill's last years were marked by physical suffering, his hands being paralyzed so that he could no longer write, by increasing isolation, by family trouble and dissension. He died on 27th November 1953. Anyway, we know that he is the best or one among the best playwrights of the American dramatist or the world dramatist, and he became very, very famous. And let us look at the fame and recognition of Eugene O'Neill. In his own lifetime, O'Neill was established as the leading American dramatist. He had his triumphs. He was awarded Pulitzer Prize for Beyond the Horizon, Anna Christie, Strange Interlude, and Long Day's Journey into Night. He received the highest international recognition in the award of Nobel Prize for Literature. A considerable number of books and articles have been devoted to his work since the 1920s, and in recent years the sign of interest has grown markedly pronounced. His plays are quite popular in the English-speaking world. Despite some critical effort to debunk Eugene O'Neill, he remains America's outstanding playwright, the only one to win international fame and recognition and the Nobel Prize. He not only built up the American theater, but also put it on the world map, where now it has a dynamic and distinguished place beside European and continental theater. Arthur Miller and Tennessee Williams helping to sustain that edifice. Unlike Shakespeare, whom popular fancy depicts as a wild bird who sat on the bough and warbled his wood notes while, O'Neill had the theatre in his blood and made a lifelong, strenuous, conscious effort to achieve glory in this field and leave footprints on the sands of time. Also, unlike Shakespeare, O'Neill was a highly personal writer, in whose case the partitions that divide autobiography and objective reality are very paper thin, so thin that his dramatic works constitute a series of personal obsessions, ending up with the most personal of them all, Long Day's Journey into the Night. Euripides in Greek drama and O'Neill in modern drama stand out prominently as the great representatives of two great moments in human history. They have much in common. They rebel against the diction and the conventions of the theatre, brought forth a natural sense of melody, and revealed profound sense of the dramatic. They tested theories, found shelter in none. Their spiritual yearnings found a new expression in an intensely traditional form. They created a new taste for ideas, and these are combined with morbid aberrations and real but ugly passions. The problems are those of human beings in so far as the person is human. They are problems of religion, war, and women peculiar to man. They tap mercilessly but judiciously the customs and ideas of man to discover and unravel their hollowness. Here we observe homely people, real human beings, the intimate things which we know and live with. So with this we come to the end of the discussion of the life and career of Eugene O'Neill. In the next lecture we are discussing the most significant plays of Eugene O'Neill. Thanks a lot for listening. May God bless you.